Hello everyone, kia ora, and welcome to this video about the astrology of the week beginning the 1st of December. In this video I'm going to talk about the aspects and transits that are happening, or look at the phase of the lunar month that we're at, and I'm going to focus for the all signs breakdown on the full moon in Gemini, which is square to the lunar nodes or the eclipse points. So that is bringing about some kind of karmic or fated work that we need to do. More of that in the video later. I make astrology calendars for New Zealand and Australia. Here is the 2026 New Zealand calendar. It's out now. The Australian one is coming up soon. But in these videos, trying to get that right. In these videos, the astrology and the aspects and transits that I talk about apply everywhere in the world, and for that reason I've done times for New York and LA and London, and you can adjust according to the time zone that you live in. The aspects and transits affect us all at roughly the same time. It's just that we have set our times and dates at different stages, and so astrology and the transits happening by the planets and the heavenly bodies are affecting us all with their mix of energies and the feelings and the guidance in some ways that they give us. Two things I want to talk about that I'm excited about. Firstly, later this week I'm going to be recording a video with my astrology teacher Ksenia Moore, and we're going to record that together. It will appear on her channel and it's probably coming out this week, later this week, so I will definitely link that and her YouTube channel in the description below. Not quite sorted on the topic yet, but it might be about Chiron, the wounded healer asteroid that can help us bring the invisible world and the unconscious world and the unseen energies and psychic powers that exist within us, and intuition that exists within us, and can connect those with our earthly reality and our physical presence in the world. So I'm looking forward to talking about that with Ksenia. We're going to record late after I've done this video. And of course, I'm also excited that the New Zealand calendar is printed. I'm just about to send out the New Zealand pre-orders. The Australian one is on its way, as I said. And yeah, it's all here. All this information, the lunar months, laid out in a grid form so that you can see the way the moon waxes and wanes. Lots of information about the daily transits of life, and every new moon questions, so you can meditate or ponder those questions at the time of the new moon. Sign characteristics, special events, different colors and lovely illustrations. And I'm going to go to, we're in the lunar month of Scorpio right now. In every sign I've done an affirmation to honor at least one of the special qualities of that sign. Every sign has special gifts for the world. The Scorpio one, because we're in the lunar month of Scorpio. The lunar month of Scorpio. The affirmation. Scorpio. I am an alchemist. I explore the mysteries and transform ordinary things into gold. Because Scorpio has this ability this month, this lunar month that we're in now. Scorpio has the ability to get down into the deep layers and not just find the ordinary things, but even deep fears and almost like the building blocks, the fundamental foundations of things, and put them through those very, very basic things. A transformative process that's not always easy, but out the other side comes gold that is made up of the parts that made it. They're still there, but it can be so shiny, precious and valuable. So Scorpio, you've got that amazing transformative power, and every sign has amazing powers. Anyway, I digress. Look out for that video from Ksenia. She is a fantastic astrology teacher, and look at any of her videos, she goes into such depth and she's very clear with the ways that she explains things. But right now we're going to get into the phase of the lunar month that we're in, and remember, you can jump ahead to any part of the video that you like using the timestamps. Here we go. Okay, starting with a quick look at the phase of the lunar month that we're at. We had the new moon in the sign of Scorpio, the start of the Scorpio lunar month on the 19th or the 20th of November. First quarter moon was last week, where the moon looks like a half moon in the sky. And we are heading for the full moon, full lusciousness in the sign of Gemini at 13 degrees, and that will be on the 4th of December for USA, UK, and it will be on the 5th of December for us here down under in New Zealand, Aotearoa, and Australia. And that is the topic of this video. And then we'll be heading towards... We'll be into the waning phase with the moon going down in size and heading to the next new moon on the 19th and 20th of December in the sign of Sagittarius. Now looking at this week's aspects and transits, I am relieved to say there are not nearly as many as the last couple of weeks. It took so long to relate them all, but it'll be quicker this week. Okay, we have just come out of Mercury retrograde on the 30th of November on this Sunday. Mercury stationed to turn direct, and we will still have a few days where Mercury is very slow and still in that position, and it might still feel a bit Mercury retrograde like, but basically Mercury is now going to be moving forwards, and gradually over the next couple of weeks you'll find that there's more momentum with things. You won't be having to go back over things and looking to the past to fix up errors and revise and research. You can get on with your planning and your communication and fix things, and they will stay fixed. There won't be troubles along the way. Okay. And then we have Venus on the 30th of November in some parts of the world, 1st of December in others, moving into Sagittarius. Okay, so Venus is the planet of relationships, especially one-to-one relationships, harmony, peacemaking, sweetness, and comforts, and tangible pleasures, luxuries in life, negotiation, diplomacy, even contracts between people. Venus is going into the sign of Sagittarius, and that means that it is more likely to feel a little bit like it wants some adventure. It wants some outdoor time, going to exciting places, whether those are distant places within your own country, like going for a tramp, going rock climbing or camping far away, or actually going traveling far away. And Sagittarius can also be about travels of the mind, where you are exploring philosophy, belief systems, religion, looking at the principles of life that you abide by and believe in, and therefore want to encourage the world to follow, like a star that you follow. Venus will be bringing to that kind of Sagittarius energy and the feeling of relationships and the pleasures of life. So it might be that if you are exploring the wilderness, take time to touch the leaves and really feel them. There might be little pools of sunlight where you can lie down and just soak up lovely feelings of sweet comfort. And if you are doing any of those things, it's a good idea to do them with other people, and they might have an added enjoyment and harmony with those connections over the next month until Christmas. Actually, that's when Venus will move into the next sign of Capricorn. And then as soon as Venus has entered into Sagittarius, she comes into a sextile with Pluto. Pluto is about our deep, hidden, unconscious, underlying layers of psychology. It can also be, in more practical ways, underlying layers of wealth and power that are not obvious. It's the hidden wealth, the unseen power structures. Venus will be bringing some of those into maybe this is coming up in relationships, some of these matters of the underlayers of the unconscious, psychological layers, even occult or esoteric pursuits like tarot, like oracle decks, or any divination practices like astrology. That can also be part of Plutonian energy. Venus will be bringing these out in relationship, and it's a sextile aspect, so it can be quite easy and flowing and helpful. Nevertheless, Pluto brings up some difficult stuff. It can be our deepest, most strong terrors or fears, but Venus has got a benefic energy. It's generally generous and supportive and allows for connection and flow, and a sextile is a flowing aspect. It's a good time to talk about deep relationship and intimacy matters with your partner, to talk about shared resources with partners, whether that's business partners or your own partner, and to consider your investments, and to consider what's going on for yourself underneath in terms of your deep psychology about relationships and about your possessions and what you believe you can have or feel that you deserve you can have. That might be helpful. Okay. And then on Thursday or Friday, we have the full moon in the sign of Gemini, and I will do some more talking about that later in the video, so you can skip ahead if you want. And on Saturday 6th or Sunday the 7th, Mercury is in trine to Jupiter. We are in the final stages of that lovely repeatedly triggered grand water trine between Saturn and Neptune in the water sign of Pisces, Jupiter sitting in the exalted position of the water sign of Cancer, and the personal planets Mercury, Venus, the Sun. Earlier there was Mars going through Scorpio, the third water sign, and all of these forming a triangle, which is a grand trine is the most flowing and easy aspect in astrology. It's nearly finished because we had the Venus aspects last week and Mercury went retrograde back and forth, and now Mercury is going to go forward over those for the last time. So there's been some lovely flowing ease in some parts of your life over in the water signs of your life, and you can go back to my video and that I did on that and look at it. I'll link it in the description. So now I'm going to look at this full moon in Gemini and analyze that chart a little bit. Well, as I said before, it occurs on Thursday, 4th of December in some parts of the world, 5th of December in Australia and New Zealand. It's at 13 degrees and 3 minutes right in the middle of the sign of Gemini. And when we have a full moon, it's always when the sun and the moon are opposite each other in the sky. So you can see the moon down there, and that's the glyph for Gemini, and across opposite in the chart is the sun at 13 degrees of the opposite sign, which is Sagittarius. So always with the full moon we have this opposition. Okay, with Gemini we've got the energy of chat and communication and networking, moving around your local area, making connections like a honey bee buzzing around the different flowers, connecting them up by taking some pollen, leaving some footprints, some bee footprints, and trade and exchange, community connections, also with relatives, not parents, not children, but your cousins and aunties and uncles. It's all this like extended family, neighborhood, community. It's also about learning, so it involves schools, and that will have a different energy depending on what part of your chart Gemini is in. For For example, for me, Gemini is in my 4th house of home and family, and I have found all the time through my life there's always lots of talk and learning and curiosity in my home life. That's one way that it can play out. If Gemini is your sign of career, then that if you're a Virgo rising, it will be your career, and it means that there'll be a lot of chat and talk and teaching and learning in your career. You might be a teacher in a local school, for example. You can learn more about that when I do the full moon, the all signs breakdown. Okay. On the opposite side of the chart, at the time of the full moon, is the sun. So you will see when the sun sets that night, the sun will be going down and the moon will rise at roughly the same time. They are completely opposite, going around like this. Okay, and Sagittarius is also about learning, but it's more expansive than Gemini. Gemini is about the local, the close by, more like the ordinary life kind of learning, the hand skills and more the fundamental literacy skills. Whereas Sagittarius is about higher learning, like university level learning or high philosophy. And Gemini, where Gemini is about the local, Sagittarius is about the distance. So a Sagittarius person will always have their eyes on the horizon, wanting to go far away to far off shores and learn from what we can learn from other places and other people that live far away. Okay, so the full moon is kind of bringing out that opposition and the tension between local and the local details and the bigger ideas, big picture ideas of Sagittarius, all right? And then at the same time with that full moon, okay, this is the main thing I wanted to talk about, actually. I've jumped ahead, hang on. Yes, next I'm just going to mention Mars and Venus are co-present. They're not very, very close to the sun, but they are with the sun in the sign of Sagittarius. And you can see that the sun is pretty much at an exact midpoint, not quite, but nearly halfway between those two. So there's a bit of Mars and Venus energy. Mars with its desire for action and direct, bold speech, initiation and entrepreneurial spirit, and the pioneering spirit and the fighting spirit, and Venus with its wanting to be peaceful and to relate with others and make connection and make things look harmonious and beautiful, because Venus has got this wonderful aesthetic quality about it, and bring about diplomacy and harmony. The sun is about shining, creative expression of the soul, vitality, and the leadership, where it's the kind of regal leadership, like the leadership of a proud, generous, and generally benevolent, but slightly ego-driven queen or king, all right? And on the opposite, these guys are all bringing out, so the sun and Venus and Mars are all bringing out that Sagittarius energy, the expansive exploration of the far distance, high-minded ideals, far distant places. Okay, and on the opposite side, there's the moon in Gemini, reminding us in its full culminating point, its largest part of the lunar month. It's reminding us to remember about our neighborhoods, our communities, our local networks, and the smaller details of those networks and ordinary life living in our little communities as we do. Okay, so there's something there, that kind of opposition between the local and the distant. All right, and then the main point that I'm going to talk about in the all signs breakdown is the fact that this full moon, that full culmination point, is in a square to the lunar nodes. And the lunar nodes are where the eclipses are. They are a calculated point in the sky that tell us where the eclipses are at any one time. And they're currently traveling through Pisces and Virgo. So this year we've had in the signs of Pisces and Virgo eclipses, and that is going on until next year, about halfway through next year. All right, so you can see there the North Node. That's the North Node, and it's also at 13 degrees. This is a very exact aspect. 13 degrees for the Sun and Moon, 13 degrees for the North Node and South Node. The South Node is always exactly opposite. It's in the sign of Virgo, also at 13 degrees. The North Node represents our collective soul's destiny. Where does our soul want to go to? And wherever the North Node is in your chart, that will be an area where you tend to be shaky and new and like a little bit like a bumbling toddler, like a toddler who's only just learnt to walk and is walking with shaky steps, but very determined steps, and in a way with a lot of fun about that walking. Every toddler knows they have to learn to walk. And wherever that North Node is in your chart, that is an area where you are not an expert yet, but it's an area that you really want to go to. Your soul knows you have to go there, and it might take lifetimes to get there, but you're wanting to start there. And anytime you do any work in that area, it's very rewarding in terms of like, oh, I just feel so happy because I'm doing this at last, even though I'm like completely messing it up because I don't know how to do it, but I'm doing it and I'm so excited. That's how you can feel when you're doing that work. We can be a little bit over the top. Wherever our North Node is, we can be over the top with how much we want to do that work. But we do have to do it. And at the same time as remembering to get on with ordinary life and earn our money and meet our bills and do our duties in life, as Saturn will tell us, also in Pisces at the moment. So at the moment, the North Node is going through Pisces, eclipses in Pisces that are bringing us to that Pisces area of our chart with fated or destined events. And we all have something in us that wants to go to that part of life, and Pisces is about connection with divinity, connection with all that is, bringing the divine into our own lives here. And through that, there's a lot about imagination, dreaminess, mysticism, music, art, creativity that just flows from. You're a conduit for this creativity coming from the universe. And it's also on the more ordinary level. It's about escapism and endings in one's life, letting go of things, exploring spiritual realms in your life, like looking into any kind of esoteric knowledge, or being meditation and practices like that. Okay, so there's something that's going to be set off with this full moon to do with that area of our life. And when it's a North Node and a South Node, when the full moon is in square to those guys, and that is known as a skipped step. So we want to be going to this Pisces part of our chart, and the full moon in Gemini with the Sun, and in a way Mars and Venus, they're telling us there's something we're missing in terms of heading towards that Pisces point of your chart. There's something that you're missing in the Gemini area of your chart. The full moon will highlight that. And there's something you're missing in the Sagittarius part of your chart, and the Sun is lighting that up. So we'll talk about that in the All Signs breakdown, what it might be. But first, I just want to mention about the South Node. The North Node is what we want to move forward towards in life. And the South Node is what we need to or want to leave behind. It's an area of life that we've maybe done it a lot of times in past lives. We've been living in that way, and in the Virgo way. If it's Virgo, that's about giving service in really practical ways, being very systematic and organized with practical things, sorting things out, cleaning things up, making dinners for people who have broken their leg, helping to clean their house. It's that practical service. It's humble, and it's very organized, and it likes things to be in order and the details to be sorted out. And it loves systems as well, systems of organization. And the South Node is going through that part of your chart, the Virgo part of your chart, and it's asking you to leave some stuff behind there, to let go of some stuff, to surrender some of this Virgo energy. We'll talk more about that in the All Signs breakdown. And just another couple of aspects going on that might influence this full moon. Mars at the time of the full moon is coming up to a square with Saturn. That is not easy. Saturn, as you will know from my last video, Saturn expects us to be a grown-up, to do a lot of work, to be dutiful. It doesn't like us to be having too much fun unless all the work is completely done. And Mars has a fighting spirit, and it can be quite reactive and volatile in a way, and ready to take on a fight. And Saturn might not like that. Saturn is conservative and in charge. It will have more power than Mars, but Mars will be challenging it. Saturn could, in this case, stand for conservative values or traditional values or established leadership or established authority. And Mars can stand for the person who just wants to do their own thing in their own way and is willing to speak up and be bold and direct about it. And so there could be some attempted rebellion that is quite perhaps acrimonious, some kind of conflict there. So possibly that'll come up in the full moon, but in the next few days afterwards, as Mars and that aspect with Saturn becomes more exact. And then looking here also at Mars, we've got a trine with Chiron, almost exact, both at 22 degrees. And I don't know if I mentioned before, when I do that video with Ksenia that I talked about, we might actually do the topic of Chiron, the wounded healer asteroid, and how it can help us in our lives. Mars is sparking off, activating Chiron with this full moon, at the time of the full moon, with an almost exact trine. And that could be, there's that fight with Saturn, between Mars and Saturn with the square aspect, but perhaps Chiron with its healing wisdom might help out in some way with that fight. There might be something to understand about oneself, one's unconscious self, through that, and the fighting spirit that you have through that aspect, perhaps alongside this full moon. And also with the full moon, we've got a lovely trine. Mercury is coming up to a final trine with Jupiter. It's done it twice before. It was going direct, then it went retrograde, and it did the trine again, and now this is the final one. So this is helpful for planning. Jupiter is expansive, optimistic, confident, and brings opportunities. Mercury is good at talking, good at thinking, good at making connections. So that could be really helpful around the time of the full moon and the couple of days afterwards. And now I'm going to go sign by sign, and I'm going to start from the sign of Gemini. And I'll be talking about the full moon in the sign of Gemini. That's a culmination point, a full point in your life, in that Gemini part of your chart. And I'll mention what the sun's influence might mean on the opposite side, and then the fact that these are square to the lunar nodes and how that's playing out in your chart. I'm going to try and keep it brief, even though that's a lot. Here we go. If you are Gemini, sun, moon, or rising, but especially Gemini rising, the full moon is in your sign, Gemini, at 13 degrees, so right in the middle. So especially if you are in the middle degrees, this is a full point or a culmination point and something to do with you, your body, your physical presence in the world, in a way, your identity, your I am, the person that projects into the world and who sees the world. So a culmination point, it might be something has come to completion. It could be a celebration moment. It could be a moment where something is revealed that's not that easy. But it is a good chance, if you want to use it actively, to review something about you and how you are in the world, and maybe your physical appearance, but to go deeper than that, about your presence in the world and what you project to the world. Maybe take a few days to consider that. On the opposite side, and perhaps reflecting all of this back, or actually sending its energy towards you and you're reflecting it back, is the sun in the sign of Sagittarius. That is your house of partnership, your significant other, anybody that you work with on a one-to-one basis, whether that is clients or with a colleague or business partner, or somebody you flat with, something like that. Okay, so maybe that sunshine from that opposite side will bring something to light, that the full moon suddenly shows up. Or perhaps there's just something where your partner is quite lit up in their life at the moment, but mostly that spotlight is on you. That sun is shining towards you and brightening up to your fullest, so you may be more noticed around this time. And then we have the lunar node, so that north node, this is the eclipse point at the moment, and it is in the sign of Pisces, and it's square to the sun and the moon. It's telling you over the roughly a year and a half that it's in the sign of Pisces, and with those eclipses, that you are wanting to move into new areas with your career and perhaps expand into really unknown, exciting, but scary new areas in your career, or some work that you're doing that brings status or reputation to you that you're known for around the world. Okay, so something about the full moon might kick off something to do or activate something about what you are working towards in your career, or maybe you didn't know you were working towards it, but something makes you suddenly be doing this work in your career, a new opportunity or something new. And again, it could be a bit uncomfortable, but it is good for you. It's expanding you, expanding your soul, and helping you on a journey towards a destiny that your soul wants to move towards. And at the same time, in your fourth house of home and family, that's the sign of Virgo, there's something to leave behind. Perhaps over-identification with your family of origin, like maybe it's time to think, I don't need to be like all of my family in this certain way. I can be different. I can be someone else. They don't see me like that, but I can be a different person. I don't need to follow my bloodline in the way. There's a new song about that called Bloodlines, actually, on that topic. It's pretty cool. Sorry, I can't remember the singer. And it could also be something to do with the home that you live in, or properties that you own. Something to leave behind there, or surrender or let go of, so that you can move into other areas of your life that are going to develop you. So there we go, Gemini, and I'll say another thing about it, but first of all I want to promote the calendar. So please go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your 2026 Australia or Aotearoa Sun and Moon calendar, and like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. And Gemini, I think what will be great for you with this full moon and with all this stuff with the North Node is your adaptability, your ability to chat and talk and learn, and your curiosity. So approach whatever is uncomfortable or new with curiosity and that adaptable nature of yours. Okay, all the best, Gemini. If you are Cancer, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Cancer Rising, the moon rules you, and so a full moon is especially potent for you. This moon is in your 12th house, and that always happens around about this time of year, that there'll be a full moon in your 12th house, which is a house of endings and letting go and escaping. It's a house where a house of your sanctuary or retreat, or even places of retreat that you go to. It can also be about traveling to far, far distant places, or any way that you're just cut off, separated from your normal life. It can be ways that you escape the world through escapist pursuits like watching TV or reading imaginative stories, fantasy stories. It can be addictions or any substance use that we use to self-medicate. It's also a house of endings, and where you let go of your identity, let go of who you are, and then wonder, perhaps, who am I in the universe? It can be a great house for spiritual connection and seeing yourself and exploring what there is beyond the physical presence of the body. Okay, and there's a full moon in that house that's lighting it up. At the same time, in your house, your sixth house, is the sun, and it's shining the light across to that full moon. And your sixth house is about how you give service in the world, the practical daily service, the work that you do on a daily basis, your daily routines in really practical ways for health, nutrition, exercise, and keeping your home or your life in order. Also the daily work that you go out to do every day. Okay, so there's something there to do, maybe some tension between that 12th house of escapism and spirituality versus that 6th house of service in the world. And then in your ninth house is the North Node, and that's a house of travel and higher learning, university learning. And there's something there where the eclipses and that North Node is bringing you to that area and making you want to try new things and pushing you into new things that maybe feel really shaky but also exciting and expansive. And something about this full moon is going to play into that in some way. And then in the sign of Virgo, your third house, there's something to leave behind. Your third house is about your neighborhood, local connections in the community, local travel, and there's something to let go of there. Maybe social networking or neighbors even, or local learning. Okay, so all the best for that, Cancer, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video, and I will promote my calendar. So go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your Aotearoa or your Australia edition of the calendar. So all the best for that, Cancer. If you are Leo, sun, moon or rising, but especially Leo rising, there's a full moon that's shining up your 11th house in the sign of Gemini. Your 11th house is about the networks and groups of people that you belong to, and you enjoy your networks, Leo. You're probably a little bit of a star amongst your networks. The 11th house can also be about long-term goals and rewards from your work. So there's something maybe to be revealed by the light of the moon, or maybe there's a celebration in that area, a culmination point or a completion point. And at the same time, the sun is shining a light across to your 11th house from your 5th house. This is a great house for you. This is Sagittarius. Leo, you are all about the 5th house because you are like the 5th house. You've got the energy of it. It's about your fun and your playfulness in the world, your childlike, joyful expression, also your children, your romance, and creative entrepreneurial projects, especially where you're taking leadership in a shiny, charismatic way that kind of makes people want to just go along and follow you and get some of that reflected glory a little bit. Okay, so the sun is there, and Venus and Mars, that's really lit up at the moment. So nice for romance, nice for your children, and nice for your fun times. And it's shining a light across to that 11th house. So maybe there's some kind of either connection, but possibly a bit of tension, or maybe there's something revealed by that amongst your friendship networks or your long-term goals or your rewards from work. And all of these might be bringing something to light that are to do with your 8th house. Okay, so Pisces is your 8th house, and that is where the North Node is at the moment, and that's bringing attention and new opportunities and maybe uncomfortable but very interesting opportunities into your 8th house of your partner's money, investments, large amounts of money that are in your life, also areas of deep intimacy with your partner, or with understanding your own self and your underlying psychological layers It can also be to do with occult practices, so esoteric knowledge that you are interested in exploring, like tarot or divination methods. Something is really attractive and interesting and kind of exciting, but uncomfortably so at times in terms of new things that come along with the eclipses, but also set off by this full moon. And at the same time, opposites in your second house of Virgo, which is your house of your own earnings, your own money, your resources and possessions. There's something to leave behind there. And that's for a year and a half while the South Node is there. There's something to surrender. Maybe you have to let go of earning as much money, or maybe there's some possessions that you need to let go of. There's just the energy has gone out of them, or they're taken away for some reason, and there's a feeling about that it's actually right, and it is right. And there is a need to surrender and let go. So all of that is playing out with this full moon, and yeah, there could be a lot, but you will do well, Leo. Keep your shine on, as you always do. And to promote my calendar, please go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your Aotearoa or your Australia edition of the 2026 calendar. And please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. All the best, Leo. If you are Virgo rising, sun or moon, but especially Virgo rising, the full moon is bringing a culmination point, a peak moment, even a point of celebration or fullness, or maybe revealing something in the sign of Gemini, which is your 10th house of your career, your public reputation, your status in the world, work that you're doing that could leave a legacy, work that you're known for. Okay, and at the same time, on the opposite side of the chart, the sun is shining across at that full moon from your 4th house of home and family, the people you live with, the house that you live in, your family of origin, your ancestors even. And so there's some kind of connection between those, and maybe attention, but mostly that attention is attention as in there's a little bit of pulling apart of the opposites, but mostly the attention is on that 10th house of your career. And you know, there's a full moon every year in the sign of Gemini, and so there's always a bit of a highlight time in your career at that time. This year, the full moon is exactly square to the lunar nodes, or the eclipse points, and the North Node, as you may have heard me talking about, is going through your house of partnership. And it means that you're really, over a year and a half or so, there's new opportunities for partnership, or new opportunities for the ways that you do partnership, or work with others on a one-to-one basis, whether that is like a new partner coming into your life, or business partner or client work that you're doing. And some of those opportunities can feel a little bit scary and out there and uncomfortable, but also quite invigorating and exciting. The full moon is bringing a point where there's something to sort out with your career that could help you with that journey. And it won't necessarily be an easy feeling, but working through it can help you with that journey towards developing partnership in your life. And at the same time, Virgo, you have had for a year and a half, you've had since the beginning of this year and going until about halfway through next year, the South Node going through your house, your 1st house, okay? Your 1st house is about your identity in the world, your physical presence in the world, who you are. And I suspect you've been finding there are things to let go of there. Ways that you saw yourself and how you relate to all other parts of your life, or any or all other parts of your life, where it's sort of come undone or dissolved, or it's going away, or it's just not giving the returns that it used to, and is a need to surrender and let go. And that can be uncomfortable, you know. You have to let go of who you believe you are, like your identity, your I am in the world to some extent. So that's ongoing, and the full moon might trigger off some of that. But of course, there are exciting things happening in terms of partnership and career. And you will do well, Virgo, because you're very good at figuring out systems and making things organized and finding a way to understand things in an analytical way, and you are adaptable. So you will be fine and it just has to be, and later on it will move on to somebody else anyway, because everything is in transit. So to promote my calendar, please go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your New Zealand Aotearoa or your Australia edition of the 2026 calendar. And please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video. Virgo, all the best. If you are Libra, sun, moon or rising, but especially Libra rising, you've got a full moon in the sign of Gemini, which is your 9th house of exploration of the world, the physical, geographical world that we live in, going off to far off places, outdoor adventures, but also exploring the mind and the far reaches of the mind in terms of higher learning, discussing or exploring philosophy, belief systems, religion, trying to understand the truths, the great truths of the world. And the full moon could bring a culmination point. Perhaps something clicks into place with your understanding. Perhaps you do a trip. There could be a celebration moment or some kind of culmination point where you come to the end of a big trip or the planning of a big trip. Okay. At the same time, you've got the sun shining from your 3rd house of local travel, local networks and neighborhoods and trade and exchange, social networking around your community. And there could be some kind of tension between those two, the local area and the distant sort of ideas and places. But also the full moon brings a square with the sign of Pisces, which is your 6th house. Okay, so Pisces is a house where you give service in the world, where you work hard on a daily basis, your routines for organization and for keeping yourself healthy in life and clean in life. There's a purity to the 6th house, and it is very much about practical service, your daily work in the world, how you give service in really practical, concrete ways, like cooking up dinner for somebody who's broken their leg or something like that, and keeping the house clean. All right. That 6th house has a north node going through it, bringing eclipses and bringing new opportunities that are exciting out there and a little bit out of the box and not what you've done before. And they could feel very exciting and interesting and enticing, but also quite scary and unsure. You could be taking shaky steps in those directions, and the eclipses could bring those directions to you. Okay, so there's something about the full moon in Gemini, your 9th house, and the sun opposite it in your 3rd house of neighborhoods, that's maybe playing into that new work or these new opportunities that are coming with the north node. Okay, at the same time, there's the south node in your 12th house, Virgo, and the south node is the opposite of the north node, where you need to move towards the north node. The south node is about what you have already done and you're familiar with it and you're good at it because you've been practicing it for a long time, whether in this lifetime or in past lifetimes. There's a great familiarity about it. It's almost like the rut has been dug too deep and it's something you need to let go of because you've mastered it. It's time to move on. The 12th house is about it's a house of your self-undoing. It's endings. It's how you escape from the world, where you are separate from the rest of your life, where you perhaps retreat from the rest of your life, like when you come home and you watch TV or you're just reading a novel, something escapist, eating some things that give you your escape from reality, like chocolate or whatever, or addictions. Anywhere where you're kind of not facing up to reality, but also it's about a house of endings and self-undoing. It's moving away from your physical presence on the world, and in that way it can be very connected to spiritual practice, like thinking about you and your place in the universe, or how you as a person is becoming undone and you're just this tiny little speck of dust in the universe. So the 12th house can be a lot to do with letting go of the self and the ID, and just letting that dissolve and float away. And the south node going through that 12th house of yours is encouraging you to do that, like to in ways is encouraging you to let go of letting go, and maybe not do so much escapism, not do so much retreat. It could even be where you're visiting care homes, hospitals, or places that are out of the way from the rest of society, and there it could be that you're being asked to surrender some of that time that you're spending in those places. So all of that can play into this full moon in the sign of Gemini, but mostly it is about this culmination, this peak moment in your 9th house of exploration to distant places, traveling and exploring higher principles and religious beliefs and interesting stuff like that, philosophy. Okay, so all the best, Libra, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video, and go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your Australia or your Aotearoa New Zealand edition of the 2026 Sun and Moon calendar. All the best, Libra. If you are Scorpio, sun, moon or rising, but especially Scorpio rising, you've got a full moon in the sign of Gemini, which is your 8th house. Your 8th house is about your partner's money or shared resources that you have with your partner. Also, it could be investments or large amounts of money that are connected to you, but you don't necessarily have really access to them in your daily life. Could be inheritances, things that money that could come to you someday perhaps, or it helps you in indirect ways. The 8th house is also about your underlying deep psychological layers, and where you're exploring some of the deep recesses of your motivations and even your fears that way down below that can come out when something triggers a fear response in you and it doesn't actually even make sense why you would be so fearful of it, but also motivations like that. And the 8th house can be also about esoteric matters, occult mysteries, or deep research of any kind, whether that is into occult mysteries or it's something, any kind of topic that you're deeply researching into. All right, so there's some kind of culmination point, even a revelation, even a celebration in those areas, some maybe a realization. And with the full moon in Gemini, that house, your 8th house. At the same time, the sun is shining across from your 2nd house of your earnings. So at the moment, your house of earnings, with the sun is there, Venus is there, and Mars is there. It's all lit up. So there's energy for you to think about what you're earning, what you own, your resources, your possessions, and even about, with those possessions, the ways that you look after those possessions, and they show in many ways what you earn, and the money that you have that's come from you, not from your partner. That is a reflection of your self-belief and your self-esteem and the value that you put on yourself. So the 2nd house is about things that you value, that you own. So there could be some kind of tension between that 2nd house of your possessions and resources and your partner's money and resources, but also feeding into these deep psychological layers and intimacy. Some kind of tension, but perhaps that could bring helpful realizations. Now, these are also playing into what's going on in your 5th house, because in your 5th house, we've got the North Node, the eclipse point going through there, and the moon is triggering that. And while the North Node eclipse point is going through your 5th house, so that is perhaps bringing, over the year and a half that it's in there, which started this year and will end next year, it's bringing some kind of, it's your house of romance, people that you're dating, your children, hobbies and pastimes where you feel joyful fun and a sense of playfulness as you do them, even entrepreneurial projects that you're doing from the heart and they are so much fun to do, and anything where you're taking leadership and shining in a joyful way. And this is why it's the children, they are the products of our heart, and romance, because it can be playful and fun and sweet, and there's charisma and vitality in any of these things. The North Node is really lighting up your 5th house, and will be doing since beginning of this year until about halfway through next year. The eclipses could be bringing new opportunities and new areas to go into that feel a bit shaky and unsure. It's bringing things that you need to do that you've not done before, and it's out there, and you're not sure you're doing it right, but you feel driven to do it, okay? And the full moon in the sign of Gemini might bring something that you need to work on that's going to help you with that journey towards that 5th house of romance, romantic relationships, children, and hobbies and entrepreneurial projects. At the same time, as the North Node is going through that 5th house, the South Node is in the 11th house, and this is about friendship networks that you belong to, or groups of friends, large groups usually. It's also about long-term goals, and it's about rewards from your work. And it could be that over this time, and additionally triggered by this full moon in Gemini, there's something to let go of. There's some surrender that's needed. Perhaps there's a friendship group that's no longer working for you. Perhaps there's a long-term goal that you need to let go of in order to spend more time having fun with a new romantic partner, or more time with your children. And it's just a matter of realizing, okay, life is bringing up these circumstances that's making it harder for me to pursue these areas, these long-term goals, these rewards from my work, whether that's the money from your work or whatever, and friendship groups. And it might be time to surrender some of those. All the best for that, Scorpio. And please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video. And go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your Aotearoa or your Australia edition of the 2026 Sun and Moon calendar. Bye for now. If you are Sagittarius Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Sagittarius Rising, you've got the Sun going through your 1st house, Sagittarius, lighting you up with its fiery energy, and Mars is going through there, helping you feel stronger, more powerful, more determined and bold, and Venus is going through there, bringing some nice sweetness, making you more good looking than you are already, even more good looking. And these are shining across to this full moon in the house of your partner or your partnerships. So there's some kind of culmination point, maybe a celebration, maybe a peak moment or a completion point. It could be like there's some great romantic night with your partner, and you've been planning for it for ages, and this is the time where you have it, and later on you might debrief and all that, but the full moon might be the day that you have it, okay? But it doesn't have to be an intimate partner. It could be a business partner or a client relationship, anyone that you work with on a one-to-one basis. There's a full moment. It could be something in your partner's life that's happened, that's come to a full point, and everyone's noticing them. They're in the spotlight, and you can shine across to them and support them with that, with the sun there. There can be a little bit of tension with the sun and moon opposite each other, and the light of the full moon can reveal things that you didn't know about before that could be a little uncomfortable. The full moon can also be a helpful time to reflect on your partnership and take a step back and think, how's it going? How do I do partnership? How are things with my partner? Is my partner doing all right? Are they doing all right for me? Am I doing all right for them? So the full moon can be a good review time, okay? At the same time, you've got the North Node going through your 4th house of home, family of origin, even your ancestry, the place where you live, the people you live with, that private home area. And that is encouraging you through the eclipses that from this year until next year, over a year and a half in total. Events could come from the outside, or there could be things within you that could be quite disruptive and take you towards new opportunities in terms of home and family. It could be a whole new house comes your way. Could be a whole new way of working with, being with, connecting with your family. Could be a whole new branch of the family that you discover, something like that, or a whole new way of living. Maybe you get flatmates in, or maybe you get rid of your flatmates. Some of these changes could feel uncomfortable, like out of your comfort zone. You haven't done this stuff before, but also exciting. The full moon could be connected to this in some way. Like there's something about that full moon that helps you to work on what you need to move towards in terms of your home and your family and the people you live with and your family of origin. Okay. Also, at the same time, the North Node in that home and family house is opposite the South Node in your career house, okay? And the South Node tells us about things that we need to leave behind, and it brings events and energy that are about leaving stuff behind. And it could be that your career over the last 9 months or so, and until I think about halfway through next year, your career might be feeling like it's less important, or there's stuff to do with your career that maybe you're not ready to let go of it yet, but it's telling you it's ready to let go of you, or you are letting go. There's stuff to say goodbye to surrender, or even just less emphasis on your career. And it could end up that you do career in a different way later, but mostly the energy now is about that home and family. And again, the full moon could be lighting up something about that. So all the best for it, Sagittarius. You have a lot of bold confidence, and I'm sure you will boldly and confidently approach all of that. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your Aotearoa New Zealand or your Australia edition of the 2026 calendar. All the best, Sagittarius. If you are Capricorn sun, moon, or rising, but especially Capricorn rising, the full moon in the sign of Gemini is happening in your 6th house. This is a house of your daily work and the service that you give to the world in practical ways. In the 6th house, it's about where you go to work on a day-to-day basis. It's about your daily routines for health, for exercise, for keeping your body clean, keeping your life admin in order and organized. Okay, so with Gemini in that 6th house of yours, you probably do a lot of talking and chatting in these areas. Okay, and you've got a full moon there, so there's some kind of culmination point in your 6th house. It could be you've come to a point in your exercise program where you realize, wow, this is going well. I realize this exercise program is working really well, and look at my muscles now. Something like that. Or there could be also some kind of realization about a colleague, somebody that you work with on a daily basis, or the ways that you're giving service and volunteer work, or other practical service areas in your life. So it could be a culmination point, a moment of celebration, a realization that might not be easy. Nevertheless, it's a good time to take a little bit of a step back and review that area of your life. Review the ways that you give service. Review the ways that you look after your body through your daily routines, and your life in general through life admin. And I don't know, there's a lot of life admin, I do find, and having good systems for that works well. Okay, from your 12th house, the sun is shining. So at the moment, the sun and Venus and Mars, they're all in the 12th house, and that is all lit up. The 12th house is normally quite a hidden house, but at the moment it's all lit up for you because of the sun and the others there. And that is a house of where you retreat from the world, where the world doesn't really see you. That's a hidden aspect. It can be a house of spiritual connection, where you are thinking, who am I beyond my body, and how do I connect to the universe as a whole? It can just be a house where you hide yourself away from the world and take sanctuary, do some escapist practices, whether that is escaping into fantasy novels, or eating chocolate, or addictions can come in the 12th house. Or it could be where you are going to or visiting places of retreat, like actual retreat centers, or even hospitals, hospices, care homes, places that are out of the way of the general journey and humdrum of life. Okay, so that's all lit up at the moment. There could be some kind of tension between that sixth house of how you give service in the world and your the 12th house of where you retreat from the world, or places that you go away from the world. Maybe 12th house can also be foreign travel. Okay, anything where you're away from the world. Okay, these are playing into a little bit a longer story, which is about the North Node in your third house. Pisces is your third house. The North Node is there. The eclipses that started there early this year and are going to about halfway through next year, they are bringing changes and developments in your third house of your neighborhood, your community, local learning, schools, networking, trade and exchange, small businesses, social media. Okay, any kind of messaging and connections with local community, driving around your local community, or other ways of transport locally. Okay, commuting. All right, there's something in that local area and community, or local learning, even learning hand skills, with the eclipses, that's inviting you to go into a new world where you are expanding. You're entering new territory that's kind of exciting, but a little bit scary and shaky because it's outside of your comfort zone. You haven't done this before. Okay, and so it could bring exciting opportunities, but with the full moon, it's square to that, so there's some kind of tension, perhaps something to resolve, and the full moon might bring a revelation that helps you towards this area of your third house. And then also the South Node is in your ninth house of foreign travel and higher learning, like university learning and philosophy and religion. There's something to leave behind there, something to let go or surrender. Perhaps there are belief systems that no longer work for you. Perhaps there is a travel plans, or maybe you've been doing 6 months in one country, 6 months in another country, being a snowbird or a sunbird flying around, and you realize, that's not going to work for me anymore. I can't do it, and you need to let it go. It could be a university course that you need to let go of. Whatever it is, there'll be some kind of surrender needed in that ninth house of higher learning, belief systems, and travel plans. Okay, and all of this could come into play, but the main focus is that full moon in your third house of Gemini, your sixth house. The full moon in your sixth house of your daily work, your routines, your life admin, and how you give service in the world in practical ways. You love the practical stuff, Capricorn, so I think you'll be comfortable if anything requires hard work or discipline, because you guys are good at that. Anyway, all the best, and please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and go to sunandmoon.com to order your Aotearoa or your Australia edition of the 2026 Sun and Moon calendar. If you are Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, but especially Aquarius Rising, you've got a lovely full moon in the sign of Gemini. That is your fifth house of your children, the ways that you play in the world, playful like a child, projects that come from your heart. So this is like hobbies or entrepreneurial projects that are heartfelt and joyful and fun. And it's also the house of romance and dating. So the full moon could bring some kind of celebration or a culmination point, a peak moment in any of those topics, something for your children, a great date. The full moon can also sometimes reveal something that you weren't aware of before, because of the light is at its greatest with the moon. Okay, on the opposite side of the chart, in the 11th house of friendship groups and rewards from your work and long-term goals, is the sun, and that area is all lit up at the moment with the sun shining there and Venus bringing its harmony and sweetness and nice connection, and Mars lending boldness, determination, and a good fighting, entrepreneurial, initiating spirit. Okay, they're shining across at the full moon, making you remember about, because the 11th house can be a very rational house, thinking rationally and connecting with large groups of people. The full moon in the 5th house might help you remember about the heartfelt things, like your children, and doing things just because they are fun, not because there's rational reasons or higher causes all the time. There could be something like that. And both of these, 5th and 11th houses, are square to your 2nd house. Pisces is your 2nd house, and the North Node is there. It has been since earlier this year, and it will be till about halfway through next year, bringing eclipses and bringing new opportunities in the house of your possessions, your resources, your earnings that come from you, and your, in a way, your self-esteem and how you value yourself, and how your earnings and your possessions and resources reflect the value that you place on yourself. There's some new areas to move into in terms of your 2nd house of earnings and resources, and these could be really exciting but scary as well, because they're outside of your comfort zone, and the full moon in Gemini might be triggering that in some way because of that square aspect with the full moon. Okay, and then on the opposite side of the chart, going through the sign of Virgo is the South Node, and that's your 8th house of other people's money in your life, your partner's money, inheritances, taxes, investments. There's something to let go of here over that year and a half, till about halfway through next year. Perhaps an over-reliance on your partner's money or resources, or perhaps realizing you thought an inheritance was coming your way and then you realize it's not, that's not going to happen. Or perhaps, because the 8th house can also be about deep psychological layers and occult mysteries. Perhaps there's some time where you can't practice those, or you can't use divination methods, or there's some deep motivations or even fears that you've had, and there's a chance to let some of those go. Not always easy though. So all of these are playing into the mix, 4 different houses that are activated by this full moon, but mostly that energy is in your 5th house. And so that hopefully you enjoy some nice celebration, whether that's romantic or something with your children, or where you're just having great fun doing something that you really enjoy, Aquarius. So please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video, and go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your Aotearoa or your Australia edition of the 2026 Sun and Moon calendar. All the best. If you are Pisces, sun, moon or rising, but especially Pisces rising, the full moon in the sign of Gemini is happening in your 4th house, your house of home and family, the people you live with, your family of origin, even your ancestors. And it could also be properties that you own. So there could be some culmination point, there could be a peak moment, there could be even a celebration. You have a nice dinner in your home perhaps, or you are moving into a house and that all feels pretty good. The light of the moon can also reveal things that were hidden in plain sight, and you suddenly see them as well. That might not always be easy. And there can be tension from the house on the opposite side of the chart where the sun is, and that is Sagittarius. That is your career house, the house of your public reputation, work that you do that leaves a legacy in the world, and your status, what you're known for. Okay, so the sun is lighting that up. Venus is there adding some sweet connection and some loveliness, even some sweet enjoyment, and Mars is there probably making you work harder, requiring you to be determined and bold. Okay, they are shining across at the moon, but mostly it is about that full moon in your 4th house of home and family. These are, the sun and moon are square to the lunar nodes. So the North Node is in your sign Pisces. There's a lot for you over the year and a half from about, I think, early this year until about halfway through next year, the eclipses are in your sign. They are helping you step into new ways of being yourself. It's your first house, is you, your body in the world, your physical presence in the world, how you present yourself in the world, and how the world sees you. Okay, so there's a lot of new stuff there about that's taking you into being a new person in some ways and changing your feelings about your identity. Okay, and the new areas that you need to step into aren't familiar. There can be discomfort because you haven't done this before. You haven't been this way before. And something about that full moon in the sign of Gemini is activating this new self that you're becoming and this journey. And the eclipses could bring events that make you think, oh, is this a new me? What is it? Who am I? At the same time, the south node is always opposite the north node, and the south node is going through your house of partnership. So there's something about your partner or partnership or the ways that you do partnership that you need to leave behind, let go of, surrender. And it could be something where your partner is not well or not very healthy in some way, or it could be just they're pulling away from you or they're doing their own thing, or it's the way that you do partnership. Maybe you've been a certain way in partnership and you're finding that's not working anymore. I need to actually let go of that way that I do partnership and try out, accept that there could be other ways. Okay, so some kind of letting go there. Maybe letting go of a dependency on partnership. And this could be any kind of partner. It can be a life partner, an intimate partner, a business partner, client, therapist relationships, business partner, anything like that. Okay. So all of these are playing in together with that full moon in Gemini, but mostly the focus will be in Gemini, your fourth house of home and family and properties that you own and people that you live with. So I hope that you enjoy that and grow from whatever happens, Pisces. All the best, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video, and go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your 2026 edition of the Australia or the Aotearoa New Zealand Sun and Moon calendar. If you are Aries, Sun, Moon or Rising, but especially Aries Rising, the full moon in the sign of Gemini is happening in your third house of neighborhood connections, community that's around you, traveling around, commuting around your neighborhood, any kind of talk or chat or messaging, social media, trade and exchange, learning, schools in the neighborhoods, and also small businesses. So there's a lot that comes under the third house, and there's some kind of culmination point, maybe a celebration, maybe it's a shared driveway get together that you have, or maybe it's you've got a new bike and you can travel to work easily. Whatever it is, some kind of culmination point. Actually, I had a full moon in my third house, the last full moon, and because I'm a teacher, you know, third house is about schools, and I'd been teaching the kids this song for 2 or 3 weeks, and there was this culmination point at the point of the full moon where we got 3 classes together and they all sang the song, and it sounded awesome. And I was really pleased, and then the next day I realized, oh, it's full moon. That was my culmination point, and we kind of it was the last day of doing that song, so that was the ending, because full moons can bring an ending after you reach that peak point. Okay, at the same time, the sun is shining across opposite the full moon, shining its light to that full moon from your 9th house. Sagittarius is your 9th house of travel to distant lands, exploring higher principles, higher learning like university learning, philosophizing about life and the meaning of life and what is truth and why are we here in the universe, and philosophy like that and belief systems. Okay, so the sun is there and Venus is there and Mars is there, so there's a lot of energy and a lot of drive there at the moment, but the full moon will help you remember about the local stuff because that's in your house of local living. Okay, these are also triggering the eclipse points. Okay, so the eclipses at the moment of the North Node are in the sign of Pisces, which is your 12th house, and this is a house of self-undoing. It's a house of endings. It's a house of where you let go in some ways of your physical presence in the world. And there's been eclipses here since early this year and until about middle of next year. And there could be revelations coming out with the eclipses, or new ways of escaping from the world, or new ways where the outside world comes in and makes you escape from the world. It could be that you've now started to had to go to care homes or hospices, or you've had to retreat from the world in some way. And this will help you with your spirituality, your spiritual practice, and where you try to understand who we are as beings in the universe. It could help you connect with the whole universe. But it can be uncomfortable because the North Node takes us into areas that are outside of our comfort zone. The 12th house can also be about escapism and addictions, and maybe there's things to understand there. And also the North Node's in that 12th house of spirituality and letting go of physical presence in a way. The South Node is in the 6th house. It's opposite in Virgo. And the 6th house is very practical. It's very much about being in the world in practical material ways. It's about your daily life routines, your daily work in the world, where you go to work, what you do to give service in the world, whether this is through voluntary work or your daily paid work, your daily tasks, but also your routines in life for health and organization of your life and your home and what you do day to day, your tasks. All right. And there's been ways of running your life that you're maybe letting go of now, because the South Node is about letting go and surrender. There could have been health challenges and you need to let go to some aspects of your health, because the 6th house is about your body as well and the purity of your body. And yeah, maybe there's some acceptance there, or something to do with your work that you need to let go of, the daily work that you do. Okay, there's some surrender involved. Or any way that you give service. Maybe for years on end you've been taking food around to a neighbour and helping them out with their garden or something, and perhaps there was a lot in that for you that was really rewarding, but perhaps that neighbour has moved on and you no longer get to help them in that way. Mostly though, so all these things could be playing in with this full moon, but mostly it is about those few days of the full moon with some kind of peak moment or culmination point in your 3rd house of your neighborhood, local schools, local learning, local networks and connections, traveling around your neighborhood and trade and exchange there. So all the best, Aries, and please like, comment or subscribe if you like this video, and go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your New Zealand, Aotearoa or your Australia edition of the 2026 Sun and Moon calendar. Bye for now. If you are Taurus, sun, moon or rising, but especially Taurus rising, you've got a full moon coming up on the 4th or the 5th of December in the sign of Gemini, which is your 2nd house of your resources, your earnings, your possessions, even the value that you place on yourself, your self-esteem, and how that is reflected in your physical belongings and your money. So some kind of peak moment or culmination point, there could even be some money coming your way with the full moon, some kind of reward for past action, and or there could be something revealed by that full moon. At the same time, the sun is with Venus and Mars, so there's a whole lot of energy opposite in your 8th house in the sign of Sagittarius. And that house is about your partner's money, your partner's resources. This could be any kind of partner, anybody that you work with on a one-to-one basis, but very often it is like a life partner, but it can be a business partner as well, okay, or clients and clients' money. Okay, so there's a lot of energy over there, but they're shining a light across to that second house. With that opposition, there could be some kind of tension, but it can always be worked through. And every year you do have a full moon in this house. And yeah, so it could be a celebration moment or a culmination, and something can be revealed by the light of the moon. Okay. So this financial axis is playing out with a grand cross, a square to your 11th house. So Pisces is the house that currently has the North Node and the eclipses happening in it from about early this year until about halfway through next year. And this is your 11th house of the groups of people that you belong to, large networks that you choose to belong to. They're not just the ones that you've ended up with through an accident of birth or your neighborhood or whatever. These are people that you're in friendship groups with, or there's some kind of cause that unites you, okay? Or the 11th house is also about your long-term goals, and it's also about rewards from your work, which play into your long-term goals. The 11th house is important for you while the North Node is there. It's an area that the North Node is encouraging you to move towards, because that's what your soul wants you to move towards at this time, all right? So it could be that, and the North Node brings disruption in terms of it pushes you into new opportunities and new ways of doing things that you might not feel like you're ready for. It just kicks your butt into doing them. And there can be discomfort with that. You're just not used to it, and it's you don't really know how to deal with it, but you've just got to do your best. And it can also be these new opportunities or new ways of doing things can be very invigorating and exciting and really cool, but yeah, you can be a beginner with them. On the opposite side of the chart, the South Node is in your 5th house, and that is, you've been having since the beginning of this year until about halfway through next year, some letting go to do with your children, some letting go to do with perhaps romantic partners. That's on a dating level, not so much committed partnership. Some letting go to do with playfulness and things that you do for fun and joy, hobbies, okay? The South Node makes us leave things behind because outside circumstances take them away from us, or because there's something in us that we're just not as into them anymore, but more often the outside circumstances, I feel. So, and that can make you, because of letting go of some of those things, it could be your children leaving home, could be a romance, that person you've been dating, you break up, or you just stop dating. And it could be a hobby that's not working for you as well as it used to. But that leaves space for you to go towards that 11th house of your friendship groups and causes that you believe in for humanity, long-term goals, and perhaps rewards from your work. And all of this is playing in, all of these different topics are playing in with the full moon, but mostly it is about that peak moment in your 2nd house of your money and resources, Taurus. So all the best for that. Please like, comment, or subscribe if you like this video, and go to sunandmooncalendar.com to order your copy of the 2026 Aotearoa or Australia Sun and Moon calendar. So all the best, Taurus. So there we go, everyone. That's all from me. Please look out in the comments or the description as soon as the video with Ksenia that I'm recording very shortly is published. I will put it in there so that you can go to it and have a look. And remember to order a calendar if you'd like to get one. And also, mostly remember that with the full moon, any full moon, it's a great chance to go out and look at that great, wonderful thing in the sky that guides so much of our life in these subtle, energetic ways. and review something, give thanks, hold gratitude for that moment, and just think, okay, this is where I'm at with whatever area of life it is. You can choose, you can listen to the All Signs breakdown to find out which house of yours it might be hitting off, but you can do it about anything. Gratitude, appreciation, and review with that bird's eye look. Okay, so enjoy the full moon, everybody, and all the best for this week.